author of The War on Small Business. My friend Carol Roth joins me. Carol, what is Joe Biden's biggest disaster in your opinion?
So obviously, it's always all about the money, and Joe Biden is the biggest economic disaster that we have seen in a very long time. Now, I am a fair individual, Jesse, if nothing else. I think you would agree with that. So he did walk in to a bad situation, and he had this opportunity to turn things around because the vaccine was coming out. People's bank accounts were doing pretty well. There were a ton of jobs available. And what does this genius do? He doubles down on bad policy. Amidst all of this, the first thing that they do is the American Rescue Plan, almost $2 trillion in additional spending, going to cronies, throwing out Biden bucks so he can say he gave you back your own money. But most people don't realize that. So that puts a lot of additional money and pressure on prices in the economy. He extended the unemployment benefit situation that was set to expire last March, extended the unemployment bonuses, that incremental $300 on top of traditional unemployment to keep people out of the workforce. And the outcome of all of this is the stuff that we're paying for every day. We don't have enough people to fill the jobs in the labor market. There are almost 11 million jobs unfilled. The supply chain is entirely messed up. There's an increase in prices, so people are paying more and getting less. And for the poor and for the middle class, inflation is a tax that nobody talks about. On top of that, think about things like gas prices going up. Well, this genius in the White House came in. What's the first things that he does? He cancels the leases on cancels oil and gas leases. Decides that we're not going to continue to build a pipeline. And the worst part is that the scariest financial policies are yet to come. Trillions and trillions of additional dollars that are moving us further away from free markets towards socialism. So that is the biggest blunder.
We're going to get to the future in a moment, but you said he inherited a bad situation.
Sure.
We don't pull punches on this show.
Correct.
What is the bad situation specifically he inherited it, and why did he inherit it?
So from the last administration, Congress and the Federal Reserve, 2020 saw the most historic transfer of wealth from Main Street to Wall Street in history. It shut down smaller businesses and let that revenue go to bigger businesses. It pumped trillions of dollars into the market to prop up big businesses. It allowed for interest rates to stay artificially depressed. And so if you were a retiree or a saver, you were earning next to nothing on your money, but big companies were able to borrow cheaply and go out and compete not only with other businesses in the market, but with individuals to purchase homes and the like. And this was all the roots of creating not only this wealth transfer, but the pressure that is coming out in inflation. So, he did inherit that. That happened before he walked in. But again, he could have stopped that. He could have said, okay, well, now we're going to return to normal, but chose not to do that.
All right, Carol, as long as you're sitting here scaring the pants off of everybody, what's coming? You mentioned what's coming because it ain't great right now. What's coming?
So we have trillions and trillions of additional spending that we are being told is quote unquote paid for. Of course, none of this is paid for. They're making the assumptions that they will be able to raise taxes and that won't have economic impacts. They're doing things like tricks in terms of timing. So they're saying this is the 10-year cost, but they're phasing in a program maybe a few years later or bringing some of it on later or only doing it for 2 years. And then you're going to have to vote for it for the other 8 years. So they're doing all kinds of tricks. And these are all things that increase encourage big government and big special interests and take away the economic freedom from the individual, and will make it more difficult for individuals to create and hold on to wealth. And so that is what's coming. Obviously, we're already seeing the effects, as I said, in inflation in terms of taxes. They want to double down. They want to spend more. And the way that they see fit is going to benefit the people who are inside of the club and not the average American, even though they sell it the other way.
Carol, inflation. I know
Yes.
we talk about this a lot, but shoot, I got it from my wife yesterday. She got back from the grocery store. She's like, "Well, I don't understand. Why is everything costing so much more? And you think that's going to continue to get worse? Why? What does that have to do with interest rates?"
Right. So basically, there's all this interconnection in terms of the money that has been printed and the money that has been transferred from the government out of nowhere into people's pockets. This is money that they're making up that is a future debt that we have to pay, and putting all of this money into the system, chasing the same amount of goods and services, or in our case, sometimes fewer goods and services, because again, we have these supply chain problems. So people can't manufacture the same level of goods or have the same number of people working to have the same output. That creates price inflation. And it's done in one of two ways. It's either direct price inflation, so you're paying more for the same thing, or they do something called shrinkflation, where you're buying a box of cereal and it looks the same, but when you open it up, like only half the box is filled, and then you look at the outside and you realize, oh, they've actually cut the amount that's in the box. So you're still getting less with the amount of dollars that you have. And again, that's a tax on the poor and the middle class, because they're the ones who are spending. The asset value price, or the prices of assets, keep going up in value. So if you're somebody who is an investor who has access to cheap debt for investing and has a lot of hard assets and is going to continue to buy assets, those are going to increase in value. So you're not having the same level of bad outcomes. Even though this does impact everyone, it just impacts them in a different way.
Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.